NBA Finals set to begin this week. Boston Celtics versus the Golden State Warriors. It's the number one and number two teams in defense over the regular season. The best two teams over with net rating over the postseason. And to help us unpack this, we have Brandon Scoop B. Robinson, NBA insider at Bally Sports and Bovada Sports Betting. Scoop, welcome to Takeline. How are you?
I'm chilling. Glad to be here with you guys.
Yay! First of all, Scoop, what's my move here? What's gambling wise? I am a gambling novice. What do the odds makers think about this series so far, and what do you think about it?
It's a loaded question, but the Golden State Warriors, I think, are bettor's favorite, just because of their offensive octane, particularly how they handled business against some teams that many people maybe thought would have had the upper hand. You go back to what they did against the Grizzlies. John Morant may have gotten you 500,000 views on social media across all platforms doing the gritty, but the Warriors found a way to dig deep and get it from the mud, as they say, and get real gritty, and go get it. And John Morant wasn't even able to finish the game or the series. You look at the last round against Luka Doncic. For many people, that would have been their dream to see Luka take it to the next level as the face of the franchise, as Madden players would say, and get things done. But you look at this series against the Boston Celtics, and as my geometry teacher from high school would say, the Boston Celtics are a horse of a different color, specifically because they beat the favorites, one of the favorites, well, two of the favorites, one in the Brooklyn Nets in round one, who were busy ramping up. And every time I get into the airport and I see the word ramp, I take pictures of it and tweet it, and people laugh. But the ramp up was a thing, and then going into round two, I believe it's the great Ric Flair who said it best: to be the champs, woo, you got to beat the champs. And you saw what they did against the Bucks, and then what they did against the eventual regular season first place team in the Miami Heat, who were a Jimmy Butler 3 from almost not getting there, but they did what they needed to do. So I think this matchup is so great for storylines. It's not exactly a David and Goliath story, because the Celtics have been there. And really, Jason Tatum has been there from his rookie year, going toe-to-toe against, the Cleveland Cavaliers against a LeBron James-led team. It reminds me of, I think it was the Baby Boy movie with that scene where he and Q, I think that was Baby Boy. It was some type of Tyrese movie where they had the belt and they didn't flinch. They was like, you got heart. You got heart, son. You got heart. Like, the Celtics have had heart since day one. So I think the betting odds are going to always go in the favor of the Warriors, but the fans who actually watch the game, the people who covered the Celtics and the Warriors throughout the playoffs and the regular season, the journey for the Celtics to get there has definitely been the road less traveled. Yeah,
I think we have to talk about. You mentioned the shot that the Celtics were almost not in this finals. The Jimmy Butler shot. I want to talk about that for a second. Did you like the shot? Did you think it was a bad shot, a good shot? Al Horford was backpedaling. What are your thoughts on that shot selection?
Al Horford's knees were signaling a bailout like we were still in the Obama administration. However, Jimmy Butler's 3 was singing PPP. And I feel like at the end of the day, if Jimmy made the shot, we wouldn't be having this conversation. We would be talking about how great he is. And I think that's all the crown you wear when you're the star of a franchise. And I think, I know, I look at Jimmy's shot, I feel like when you're a superstar, because I believe he's always been one, I think it was within rhythm. Now, comparatively, when you look at a couple of Victor Oladipo's shots that he attempted, they were out of rhythm, and I think I think he got the Mario Chalmers treatment when LeBron was with that team. But I do think that When you look at what Jimmy's been capable of doing, 47 points in the game before that, overshadowing any records that Dwayne Wade or LeBron James have broken. You live with that shot. But I'll add this to your question. You didn't ask it, but I'm gonna tell you. When I look at Jimmy Butler, in a world where we look at LeBron James, Steph Curry, and others who were made with the machine, that is the media, the NBA at large. To me, Jimmy Butler is every bit of a self-made superstar, and he's literally the indie mixtape. He is literally the Jay-Z Reasonable Doubt that people go back and look at Volume 1, Volume 2, Volume 3, Black Album, and then go back and say, Can't Knock the Hustle, The Evils, and a myriad of other Politics as Usual. You look at all of those hits that were on that album, and you're like, wow, from beginning to end, he's where he needs to be. I think his attitude is so stoic that fits a 90s era. I think, he's every bit of Charles Oakley, Anthony Mason, Tim Hardaway, and a myriad of other people, in a world where, No Child Left Behind and bullying is prevalent in news cycles. And I don't want to, be the bully to say that doesn't matter, but we all have that grumpy uncle or grandfather that's still, in their way of being a jerk, is still right, even in their delivery.
Well, let's not to belabor it because Jimmy is out of the playoffs now, but in terms of, him being the self-made superstar, the kind of star player who, in your words, the machine is ignored, 30th pick in the draft, had to fight through his own coach at times to break through as a member of the Bulls, clashed with young stars as a member of the Timberwolves, clashed with his, and the Sixers, clashed with his stars as a member of the Sixers, clashed with his coach as a member of the Sixers. I do think, to your point, some of that is when you come in as the 30th pick and you work your way up. It's different than these kind of anointed stars who are the, a top lottery pick. You're getting all the hype coming out of college, right? When a guy like that is grading on you, saying you should be doing this, you should look at how hard I'm working, you should work as hard as me, things of that nature. It's easier to take when it's the hyped guy, the guy who's come in anointed by the media, in your words, or who you just heard about. But when it's like the 30th pick, who you're not even sure if this is a guy for a lot of it, I think that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. And I think, to your point, I think that's why Jimmy, it's taken until now for people to really appreciate what Jimmy Butler brings, because it's always been this perception of the scrappy guy who can't get along with his teammates, when in reality, they should have been trying to get along with him. But that's on them as much as it's on Jimmy, as much as it's on the media, is it not, Scoop?
It's a love-hate relationship that the players and the media have. And I'll add this, people are very name brand.
Of course.
I'm looking for the right word. I haven't had my afternoon coffee yet, or morning coffee if you're on the East, on the West Coast. But I think people are very name brand snobbish. That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
And I feel like
that's good.
Listen, when I was a kid, Oreos are my favorite cookie, through and through. But you can go to the corner store and get you some Hydrox cookies. I don't know if you guys are old enough to remember Hydrox.
I'm well aware of the Hydrox.
The Hydrox and Oreo taste the same. It just has a different name scribbled on the cookie. Yeah. I'm old enough to remember, Saturday mornings watching college football. And I enjoyed Eggo waffles, but them Downy Flake waffles ain't no joke either. And you have that with the Louis Ridge turkey bacon, you good to go. So, people want Eggos and they want their Oreos. People want their LeBrons. They want their Steph Currys. And Jimmy Butler, to them, is, some people like Sour Patch Kids and Airheads. There's a place for that too. He might not be an Oreo, but people still want their candy fix.
Takeline is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. I want to tell you about the easiest and most fun way to spice up your season. It's Underdog Fantasy and their brand new Pick'em game. Simply pick over or under your favorite or least favorite player stats, and you can win up to 20 times your money in a single night. Underdog keeps it super simple with their easy-to-use website and mobile apps. Warriors Celtics on Thursday, the NBA Finals getting underway. How many threes will Steph Curry hit in a game? How many rebounds will Al Horford bring down? How many rebounds will all of a sudden elite rebounder Andrew Wiggins pull down? Pick between 2 and 5 players, and you can take home some cold hard cash. Use code Takeline. Get your first deposit doubled by Underdog. All right, moving on to this finals. The Celtics, I think, on paper, are a great matchup for the Warriors. They really don't, the kind of team building strategy that this team is based on is a lot of switchable players, similar size players, above average defenders who can do a lot of different things, give you that flexibility on defense, no air gaps. And to that, they've added some different wrinkles with allowing Robert Williams to kind of come out and cover. His health is going to be pretty important over the course of the years. And then at the same time, you've got the Warriors who, we're used to this. We still have the memory of the death lineup era Warriors. They don't really have that two-way lineup killer anymore, right? Jordan Poole has been amazing as a spark. At the same time, that's the guy you attack, on defense. In terms of the X's and O's, the two very, very well-prepared coaches, what do you see as some of the key adjustments coming into the series?
I don't think that the Celtics are anything that the Warriors have seen in the playoffs. You have a two-headed monster that is Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, and a scrapper in Marcus Smart, and a Jaylen Brown that believes that he is that guy, and he's proved it, armband or not. I think that Jason Tatum has always been in this, I feel like over the last couple of years, we've had this conversation of who's the best in the NBA, who's the best in the world. Is LeBron still the guy? Is Giannis the guy? Is KD the guy? And we compare things or want things based off of the pretense or the principle of winning championships. To me, that's like asking who's the greatest rapper, Biggie, Jay-Z, or Nas. And I feel like we don't enjoy the process of just a player being a player. But to go back to my point on an X's and O's type of category, I think that while Jason Tatum is a prolific scorer, can pretty much get any shot he wants, and Jaylen Brown is a great supporter. I think we had this conversation last year with the Chris Middleton and Giannis conversation. Every great team needs 3-star players. And I believe that the Celtics have 2.5, and their half happens to just be a good defender who can, motivate and be their Draymond Green and Marcus Smart. A guy who was in trade conversations in the summer last year, and thankfully for the Celtics, they were prudent.
Every single year, Marcus Smart's in trade conversations.
He is.
Yeah, and I
try to trade him forever.
But here's the additive to that. You made mention of Robert Williams. I think when you look at the Celtics and you look at the Warriors, I think one of the criticisms, particularly for last decade's Warriors, was they always have these. They had the 2 or 3 great scorers or the name brand folks, not the Hydrox, the Oreos, and the Steph Currys, the Klay Thompsons, the Draymond Greens, and at any iteration, also the Kevin Durant. We've always looked at the Warriors as lacking a solid post presence. I used to joke. I would say I know guys on the corner with more post presence than Dwight Howard. And when you look at when you look at
Dwight Howard just catching random strays,
Catch him.
Well, no,
you deserve them.
I actually do like Dwight. I like the fact that he has added a 16 to 18 footer in his game. And the same way that someone like Brook Lopez has, and I think Zydrunas Ilgauskas was ahead of the curve as far as developing a 16 to 18 footer, and an NBA that was still very big on the Shaqs and the Andrew Bynums of the world. But I digress. Kevon Looney and Robert Williams was the interior presence as well that we didn't think that those teams had. That Kevon Looney has become a star in his own right, getting double-doubles in games against the Mavs, who totally lacked a post presence. And I think that when you look at when you look at what the Celtics also have, they also have an Al Horford who can stretch the floor and is going to have to make a Draymond or a Kevon Looney come out and guard him up that way. But by the same token, I feel like the matchups counteract one another, and it's a good blend. I think that the Jordan Poole portion of it is something that the Warriors would have never discovered had Klay Thompson not been out as long as he was, and arguably, in my mind, should have been in a deeper consideration or conversation for the NBA's Most Improved Player of the Year, because I think that had Klay not gotten hurt, like Jordan Poole's impact may not have been, dissected or even acknowledged. I would never disrespect Kevin Durant and say that he is the KD replacement. But what I do find interesting about this series overall is it's the Kyrie KD NBA Finals without Kyrie and KD.
I saw that,
and it's interesting.
That's wild.
But I also think that they have their own mission, and I think that when you look at the matchup with the Celtics, here's what also stands out to me against the Warriors. Everybody looked at those guys as scorers, and they became defenders. They were always defenders, but I think a light switch came on for that team, and the national audience is now acknowledging them as a defensive stopper and presence because they built a wall that Donald Trump never built, and they were able to stop the Brooklyn Nets in round one, and really and truly made people pay attention to their defensive prowess. And they didn't just do it in that series; they did it against Milwaukee too.
Yeah, you mentioned Klay, and I wanted to talk about him for a second too, because he has been coming off of injury. He had some shimmers of the Klay of way back when, but he had a good game the last game for the Warriors. But do they need him, or do you think they could still win this finals with the Klay that's kind of been in and out, the not so consistent Klay?
The Warriors need Klay like Genuine still needs Timbaland producing his beats. So the answer to your question is yes.
Yes.
Yes. I don't think you can take Klay's off. I think that you saw Klay's presence from the minute he came back from injury, and that was like an NBA Finals affair. The ratings that were when he made his triumphant return. I felt like I was watching more of an inauguration than I was an actual basketball game, because it was like simulcasted on so many different things at one time. But no, I think that Klay Thompson, I think all hands on deck are going to need it, and even so, the Andre Iguodala's are going to have to make a cameo. The Gary Payton IIs are going to have to make a cameo.
Could be an important player for them.
And I really do also think that when I look at this Warriors team, I think this season is different because for many years, like you look at, for the exception 2015, because I don't think the world saw the Warriors coming when they played against the Cavs in 2015. But 2016, 2017, and beyond, whenever they made those appearances, there was a presupposition that the Warriors were going to be there every year. I think everybody was on the Suns bandwagon, and many people were cheering for a Ja Morant, appearance, or a Lakers appearance, if you will. But I think that this season is quite different for the Warriors because they really had to pace themselves. I know, it was really a tortoise and a hare type of affair there for the Warriors, because you dealt with a serious injury in Draymond. You dealt with a serious injury in Klay. And then Steph Curry, I think, and the Warriors at large, were going from a team that was in the finals to the year LeBron left Cleveland and came to LA. We thought it was going to be a LA Lakers Warriors conference finals in year one with LeBron, and then the Lakers didn't even make the playoffs. And I'm not sure if the Warriors made the playoffs that year, but we dealt with Steph injuries. We dealt with, over the years, play-in tournaments. Kelly Oubre, was he going to play in the play-in tournament or not? To wow, we're back in the finals. Like, this wasn't a presupposition finals. This was we had the claw. That's why I think it's such a perfect matchup between a team in the Celtics who clawed. They're not the Nets. They're not the Sixers. They're not the Bucks. And a team in the Warriors who are not the Suns, are not the Lakers, who didn't even make it. It really was. This feels like an NCAA tournament matchup. It feels like Baylor. It feels like it feels like Duke or North Carolina got a couple bruises, black eyes, and bullet wounds to get to the national championship game.
Finally, give us a prediction. What do you think? Who do you have winning the series? How many games?
I think this is going to go 6 or 7 games. I think that's kind of been the cadence of a lot of playoff games, conference finals games. Honestly, personally, I'd like to see the Celtics win it. I think that, from a basketball purist perspective, people want to see the Warriors. I really do want to see the Celtics win it just because of their journey. They weren't the Bulls. They weren't the Miami Heat. They weren't the Nets. They weren't the Sixers. They weren't the Bucks. They were the Celtics. And I'd like to see them win the series.
He is Brandon Scoop B. Robinson, NBA insider at Bally Sports and Bovada Sports Betting. Scoop, thanks for joining us.
Brother, and
thank you.
And Madam, thank you for the opportunity to be myself.